Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, my name is Nur Izzatul Aisyah binti Abdurrani and I am from TSL1 SMP 2024-2028. And today, I'll be presenting my task 3 TSLB3563, which is creative writing in the primary ESL classroom for presentation of digital media. And today I'll be presenting my one of my creative writing material that I designed for primary ESL classroom pupils. Today, I'll be presenting a creative writing material that I designed for primary ESL pupils called My Silly Little Storybox. This material is used to teach prose fiction, writing through the chain writing technique in a fun, guided, and collaborative way. In this presentation, I will explain what the storybox is and why I choose the material strategically and what is inside the box. I also explain how the activity is carried out step by step and the roles of the teacher and pupils, the benefits for primary ESL learners, and finally, how this material fulfills the criteria of creative writing using digital media. This is the material that I created, my silly little story box. So, it is a physical box divided into three sections containing prompt cards that help pupils generate ideas for story writing, and instead of asking pupils to think of a story from nothing, this box is actually provides them with structured prompts so that they can start writing easily. So this material turns story writing into an interactive and enjoyable classroom activity where pupils work together to build a story. Why I choose this material? I choose the material based on clear strategic and pedagogical reasons, not simply because it is interesting or fun, but first, it is very suitable for teaching prose fiction. The story box guides, which are the character, the action, and the setting. These elements help pupils understand how a story is formed in a structured way. Second, this material fits very well with the chain writing technique. Pupils continue the story by adding sentences one by one, and the prompts make it easier for them to continue the storyline logically without getting confused. And thirdly, it encourages creativity but still provides guidance so that pupils are free to imagine different storylines, but the prompt cards help them when they do not know what they want to write next. Lastly, this activity is very appropriate for primary ESL learners. It is because it reduces the pressure of writing individually. Pupils feel more confident because they write as a group and support each other throughout the activity. What is inside the storybox? The storybox is divided into three main parts, which is who, what happened, and where or object. For the Who section, I use character cards from family card games such as Happy Family and Old Maid. These cards show clear character like family members that pupils can easily recognize and relate to. For the What Happened section, there are many small pieces of paper that I folded with verbs written on them. And these verbs help pupils decide the action in their story. And for the last section, which is for the Where or Object section, there are small folded papers containing places and objects. These prompts help pupils add setting and details into the story, so that when pupils combine one prompt from each section, they already have a strong basic idea for a story. Next, we move on to the how the silly little story box works. So here is the activity manual part. This activity is not done randomly, but it actually follows the 5 stages of the writing process, which make it more academically strong and meaningful. And the first stage is pre-writing. At this stage, pupils pick the prompt cards from the story box, and then they will discuss with their group to form a basic story idea. This helps them organize their thoughts before they start writing. The second stage, we move on to writing stage. Here, pupils use the chain writing technique, where they take turns adding sentences to build the story together. This is where the main writing happens. Pupil will continue the stories spontaneously to test their creativity and imagination. Pupils will write their first sentences using the three prompts that they have chosen from the box, and use the chain writing technique by passing the paper to the next pupil in their group. So each pupil adds one to two sentences to continue the story logically, and it helps to focus on creativity and story flow. And then we move on to the third stage, which is revising. After the story completed, pupils read the full story together to check whether it makes sense or not and follows a logical sequence. For the fourth stage is editing stage. In this stage, pupils correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation with the help of the teacher. They also improve unclear sentences, and teachers may help pupils to replace weak words with better vocabulary and ensure sentences are clear and complete. So we move on to the final stage, which is presenting. Pupils read their story out loud to the class when they have done writing their story, and or maybe teachers can ask student or make student to also put their masterpiece on the classboard. This shows that the activity is not only fun and interactive, but it also follows a proper and structured writing process. Then we move on to the step-by-step procedure. For step 1, teacher introduces the story box. The teacher shows the box to the class and explains that it contains 3 types of prompt, which is who, what happened, and where or object. The teacher briefly explained that pupils will use these prompts to build a story together using chain writing. Step 2, pupils are divided into small groups. Pupils are arranged into groups of 4 to 5 so that everyone has a chance to contribute. The teacher ensures mixed ability grouping so weaker pupils can be supported by their friends. So the third step is each pupil picks one card from each section. So every pupil comes to the box and randomly selects one card from the who, one from what happened, and one from where or object. This will create excitement and curiosity because pupils do not know what prompt they will get. And step 4, group discussion to form a basic story idea. So pupils return to their group and share the prompts they pick. They discuss how to combine the ideas into one possible story. This short discussion helps them organize their thoughts before writing. And then we move on to the step 5, which is first pupil writes the opening sentence. What happened here is one pupil starts the story by writing the first sentence based on the prompt discussed. What they have got. The sentence introduces the character, action, and setting. And we move on to the next step, which is step 6. Paper is passed to the next pupil. This is where the chain writing begins. The paper is passed to the next pupil in the group. So this pupil reads the previous sentence carefully before adding a new sentence to continue the story logically. Step 7. Each pupil adds 1 to 2 sentences. The process continues until all pupils have contributed. Each pupil adds only 1 or 2 sentences so that the task feels manageable and less stressful. And step 8, group reads the full story together. So after everyone the group needs to read their entire story from beginning to end, and they check whether the story makes sense and follows a logical sequence or not. And step 9, which is the last two steps, which is revising and editing with teacher guidance. Pupils improve unclear parts, add missing details, and correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation with their peers' guidance or teacher's guidance. So the teacher move around to assist and suggest better vocabulary where needed. And the last step, which is step 10, presentation of the final story. After all of the discussion have finished, finally each group reads their completed story aloud to the class, and the story can be displayed on the board as a class masterpiece, so giving pupils a sign of pride in their work after finishing their activity. This is the sample of pupils' work. This example shows how pupils can create short but meaningful stories from simple prompts. Even with basic sentences, people are able to produce creative and interesting stories when guided by their storyboards. In this activity, what is the role of the teacher and the pupils? In this activity, the teacher's role is mainly as a facilitator. The teacher begins by explaining how the storybox works and what pupils are expected to do. During the activity, the teacher moves around the class to guide pupils, especially when they need help with vocabulary, sentence formation, or understanding how to continue the story logically. The teacher also supports pupils during the revising and editing stage by helping them correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation. And at the same time, pupils play a very active role in contributing to this activity. They are the ones who pick the prompt card, discuss ideas with their group members, and write the sentences to build the story, so that they have to work together to improve their story and finally present it to the class. This activity clearly shows active participation from both the teacher and the pupils, making the learning process more engaging and meaningful. What is the benefits of this storybox activity for primary learners? So first, it helps pupils generate ideas easily. The prompt cards in the storybox act as effective story starters for pupils who often struggle to begin writing. So by simply picking a character, an action, and a place or object, pupils immediately have a clear direction for their story. This reduces the common problem of writer's block and allows pupils to focus on developing their ideas rather than worrying about what they want to write and about how they want to start it to write. Next, it also improved vocabulary and sentence formation. Why I said so is because as pupils use the prompts to construct their story, they are exposed to various verbs, characters, places, and objects that help expand their vocabulary. From the word that they don't know, when they're picking one of the prompts, they're actually studying and search for the meaning for the verb or for the object. So they learn how to form simple but meaningful sentences by connecting these words logically. And with teacher guidance during the revising and editing stages, pupils also become more aware of correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation. And next, it also develops creativity and imagination. So the random combination of the prompts actually encourages pupils to think beyond routine ideas and create unique storylines. Since no two groups will receive the same prompts, each story becomes really original, and this allows pupils to actually use their imagination freely while still having guidance from the cards that they have picked from the box. This activity encourages collaboration and peer learning. So through the chain writing technique, pupils work together to build a story, and then they read what their friends have written and learn how to continue the story logically. And this process promotes teamwork, sharing of ideas, and learning from one another in a supportive environment. So, uh, it also, additionally, this activity it also builds confidence in writing and sharing ideas. So writing as a group reduces the pressure on individual peoples, especially those who are less confident in English, so that when they present their final story to the class, they feel proud of their collective work, what they have done for the work and what they have write for the story. So this helps improve their confidence not only in writing but also in speaking, and plus point is expressing their ideas or their imagination in English. Next, we move on to the meeting the criteria of creative writing. For the first criteria of creative writing, is this material meet the criteria? Is the first one artistic expression. When pupils first see the storybox, they are already curious because of the colorful cards and the unique box designs. It does not look like a normal worksheet, so it immediately attracts their attention. The fun part is when they mix different cards together and they realize they can create like a bunch of funny, silly, or interesting stories. And this shows that creativity not only from the material itself but also from the story people produce and their imagination and their creativity. Next, we move on to the theme and values. Even though the prompts are simple, pupils often include good values in their stories without being told to do so. For example, stories about helping family members, being kind, or solving problems together. This shows that the activity can naturally bring in positive values while pupils focus on writing their story. We move on to the suitability and appropriacy. This activity is very suitable for primary ESL pupils because it is guided step by step and pupils are not asked to think of everything by themselves. So the presence of the storybox is actually like the cards help them think, and writing only one or two sentences makes the task feel easy and manageable. And it also reduces stress and makes writing feel possible for them. So next is the criteria of fourth criteria, which is delivery and medium. This presentation, I use digital slides, pictures, and video explanation to show how the storybox works. And this is actually shows how a physical teaching aid can be supported by digital media to make the explanation clearer and more interesting. The last criteria, I will move on to the materials and graphics. For the materials that I use for the storybox and the graphic that I choose to make the prompts, like the cards from I took the really like the legend card games, which is Happy Family and Old Maid, which should have the standby like the exist character. The cards are simple, clear, and easy to read. The words are not too difficult, and the visuals are child friendly. The box is also organized into three clear sections, which helps pupils understand how a story is character is formed from the character, action, and setting. In conclusion, My Silly Little Storybook is an effective and engaging material for teaching prose fiction through the chain writing technique. Plus, it guides pupils through the complete writing process while making story writing more enjoyable, more meaningful, and achievable for primary ESL learners. So, I think when developing these materials, I hope that um, pupils feel that writing a story is really fun and actually enjoyable when they have a proper guidance and proper prompts to begin with, instead of like, teacher, I don't know what to write, teacher, I think I cannot write in English. So instead of they are thinking like that, they can use the storyboards in classes to make one sentences to begin what story that they want to write for, so they can actually think and actually discuss within their group to create a funny and silly little story. So that's all from me. Thank you for watching.